What's up, everyone? Welcome to Pat's Chat. I'm Doug Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley. Right off the top here, my fundraising campaign ends on Thursday. Go to princesshallyforever.com, donate if you want to, share the link, do whatever you need to do. Time is running out. With that out of the way, Michael, how are you doing?
I'm good, Doug. I can't believe I have to do this for like a fifth time. I have to start the podcast by apologizing to we haven't made it easy on people that listen to our podcast. And I think right now I sound normal. And for the last two podcasts, I haven't, and I didn't know. And the reason is not my fault. It is Tim Cook's fault. It is the Apple Corporation's fault, or it's StreamYard. I don't know. Anyone but me is responsible. So blame them. But
Might be me. Who knows?
I still am sorry. I think I sound better now. I listened back, and sure enough, the past two podcasts, I sounded really, really poorly. But I think we got it now. I think we're good to go.
I think we're okay. And if we're not, chime off in the comments and we'll do nothing about it. We'll try to fix it. I don't know.
Put a thumbs up on Doug's face. I like when that happens. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens either. I think we have to be the ones to do it. But the Patriots had a practice today. They were kind enough to do one on a Monday, which is today, Monday, June 2nd. We're recording this at 7 p.m. And I would say it was a more promising practice for Drake Maye and the offense. And a lot of people, when I tweeted that out, were like, well, it helps to have your top wide receiver back at practice, that being Stefon Diggs. But Stefon Diggs was not participating in 11-on-11 drills as he continues to rehab his torn ACL. So if Drake Maye improved because Stefon Diggs was back on the field, that would be all vibes-based and not anything that was actually happening on the field. But those were the two biggest pieces of news, I would say, from Monday. Stefon Diggs, back at practice. Drake Maye, looked like Drake Maye.
Good news. That's good news. And the fact that you just, well, actually, everybody is better news because you're right, or they're right. That would be, duh, you added, a very good player. But the fact that he wasn't a part of that is big. And it seemed like overall the offense had a bit more. I wasn't there. I went off what people like Doug Kyed said when they came back or got finished with it. It seemed like it was a more crisp operation. Like
it was
top to bottom.
Lots of completions.
Yeah.
Not many incompletions.
So that's a positive thing.
Yeah, I think Drake Maye only had 2 incompletions. I think Joshua Dobbs only had 2 incompletions. Ben Wooldridge had more than 2 incompletions. He had an interception. But hopefully, if you're the Patriots, you're not relying on your third-string quarterback when the season starts.
Yeah.
And if you are, then you're probably going to be having the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft. So maybe that's positive.
You don't know what's going to happen, but I would to contextualize this. What did we say, or what did I say when Drake Maye struggled the first time you saw him and was better the second time because he didn't throw 4 picks, but still had a ton of incompletions? I said you would ideally at this time of year, it's not like the Super Bowl, but you would like to see some progress week to week. And is it fair to say, just outside of the results, just in terms of the operation, the flow, the rhythm, whatever it may be, the concepts, the understanding, did he look as though he has made some steps in the past 2 weeks?
And I think he has. I said this on Twitter, but so Maye was 14 of 16. One of them was a throwaway, so that wasn't even a bad pass. Other one was broken up by Jalen Hawkins. He did, however, have a completion that was initially broken up by Christian Gonzalez and then still caught by Demario Douglas. So maybe felt like in a game, maybe Gonzalez could have picked it off. Maybe he would have batted away a little bit better. But so that fell as a completion for Drake Maye. Still solid, even though that happened. And then Joshua Dobbs also got lucky with a completion where it was batted at the line by Joshua Farmer, the Patriots rookie defensive tackle, and then still caught by John Giles. So the ball was literally bouncing the right way for the offense in this practice, finally.
I feel like last year, Drake Maye used up all of his bad luck with some of his picks. Why am I blanking on who was it? Booty in Arizona who fully caught it and just threw it to the safety. There were I think Pop Douglas had one of those in Miami maybe where it was just on the hands and it was just here you go, have a pick. So perhaps those things tend to even out over time. Not saying OTA practice is when you want that to reverse, but I'm not gonna demerit him for those because talk radio and everything when you want to be crazy is well, look at his turnover rate. It's okay, but also look at his turnovers. It's important. So I won't discredit lucky breaks.
No, I think that's fair. And I think overall it was a positive sign that Stefon Diggs is back out there. Certainly doesn't seem like he's getting cut anytime soon, as was perhaps speculated on sports radio at some point last week. And I don't know. For me, he's doing things in practice, despite still being limited, despite not being a full participant. He's doing things in practice that Kendrick Bourne was not doing last year. And both of them are basically on the exact same timeline on coming back from torn ACLs. So, based on everything I saw from Stefon Diggs today, it all looked like a positive. And the fact that he's like out there running routes and like cutting and doing anything like that at all feels like a really good sign for his potential status for week 1 of the 2025 season.
So I didn't know we were going with the Bourne Diggs side-by-side comparison. So help me out. Bourne suffered his injury in the 2023 season in week 8.
Okay.
And you said, what about his recovery compared to Stefon
He was
Diggs?
not doing these things during the spring last year. Like, I don't know if we even saw him during the spring last year.
And Stefon Diggs suffered his injury in week 8. So, interesting. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like within 2 days of each other. Like, not like in a year apart, obviously, but I think one of them was on like Halloween, the other one was on like October 20th, something like that. It's like nearly identical timelines, and Diggs is older than Bourne was last year. So it's a pretty fair one-to-one comparison. Obviously, not all torn ACLs, not all knee injuries are equal.
Right.
But I think that like Bourne missed the first 4 weeks of the season last year, then still seemed to have some catching up to do once the season began.
Yeah. And that's ultimately like where this conversation is pivoting is Diggs a week 1 guy? That's a pretty significant thing.
It certainly would be. And like, I mean, to me, obviously it's also different coaching staffs. So maybe Gerard Mayo was less comfortable pushing Kendrick Bourne last year than Mike Vrabel would be with Diggs.
He was the least urgent head coach in the history of professional football. So I wouldn't be surprised if like, take your time, whatever. Right. And Bourne was coming off, but the reason it's important is because you have that soft September. And a soft September may only be a soft September if you have enough good players and you can take advantage of bad football, to borrow one from Vrabel. So when you got Raiders at Miami, Pittsburgh, Carolina to start the year, a lot of us are saying that's 3-1 is possible.
Right.
I wouldn't maybe bet my house on it. It's probably more 2-2, but even 2-2 becomes more difficult without your number 1 receiver. So that's I guess where this conversation will steer over the next, I guess you'll see minicamp next week.
Minicamp next week is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And at least with Bill Belichick, you never had the third day of minicamp. You would usually cancel it. We'll see what Mike Vrabel decides to do this year. But yeah, we'll probably only see 2 or 3 more practices. Would not expect Stefon Diggs to like be a full participant next week or anything like that. But like, who knows? The fact that he's doing as much as he is right now, I don't know where he's at by the summer. So 6 weeks from now is the real test for Stefon Diggs. And if he's out there as a full participant, then it's a really fantastic news for the Patriots, obviously.
Very interesting. The baseball boys need to butt in for a second.
Uh-oh.
Because I would never do this normally. But Mike Trout bats 5th for the Angels. Did you know that? And the Red Sox, Richard Fitz gave up 3 home runs in the first inning. So things are bad for Sox chat. So if I were you with the Boston Herald, I would stick with the Pats beat because things are going poorly there.
That's pretty rough. That's 3 home runs in 1 inning. It's pretty similar to Drake May's first OTAs practice in front of the media when he had 4 interceptions in his first 8 attempts. So I would say that maybe in 2 weeks, Richard Fitz will not allow 4 home runs or 3 home runs or whatever it was.
I would bet. And if you're the Red Sox, you hope that's because he's probably not starting games for you. But some of these things were just absolutely tagged. Trout's went 454 feet. So there's a fun fact for you. Baseball boys out.
I just got a phone call from a guy named Spam Risk. Do you think I should answer it?
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's pretty good.
That's a good feature on a phone. We're talking about good features on phones. The one that we've brought up before, or at least you've brought up before,
is
text
automatic.
The text, and then it like immediately fills in your keyboard. That's a big one.
That's not a good phone feature. That is a Nobel Prize worthy feature for whoever conceptualized it and whoever designed it. Like if it was multiple people, if it was a team, they all deserve the Nobel Peace Prize because that is life-changing.
So a year ago, I scheduled a physical for June 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an email about it today, and I can't go because it's the day of a mini camp practice. So I had to reschedule the appointment through like the messenger service on whatever like website it uses. And every single time I got a new message, I had to go through the step of typing in the code and going through the multi-factor authorization. It was driving me insane, but I digress.
And they probably rescheduled for like October because that's how it goes now.
You know what? I got one for, I think, the 12th. So I'm in good shape.
Solid. Lucky.
Yeah. Shows how good of a primary care physician I have, I
guess. Not in demand.
Yeah. But I'll survive. So you mentioned how the Patriots could have their number one wide receiver in September. Hey, it might not even be Stefon Diggs based on what we saw out of Efton Chisholm this afternoon.
Doug, don't
listen. Headline is trying not to overreact about UDFA rookie, and I'm not going to. I kid. I say this in jest, but I do have to say that Efton Chisholm was targeted 7 times. That was more than any other wide receiver on the field today. He caught passes from all 3 quarterbacks. That means that he was on the field with Drake Maye, Joshua Dobbs, and Ben Wooldridge. I mean, like we've talked about before. I think we've talked about even about Efton Chisholm. He's on that same trajectory that Demario Douglas was 2 years ago. Where 2 years ago was like, why the hell is this 6th round pick like on the field all the time with the top quarterback? And now you're kind of saying the same thing about Efton Chisholm. Like, why is this undrafted free agent on the field so much with starters? And I don't know. I mean, it really feels like a wide open wide receiver room that beyond Stefon Diggs, you can't really guarantee anyone else having a starting role. Am I crazy about that?
No, you can't. And this is, it was already crowded. And now if this guy enters the conversation, that becomes even more crowded. People didn't think it was possible, but you've just made it so.
So, I mean, like Kendrick Bourne wasn't there today, but he's not necessarily guaranteed a starting spot. Like the guy that you would assume would be a starter would be Demario Douglas. But he also probably plays the same position as Efton Chisholm. Like I would still, if I were to put together a depth chart, I think the starting wide receivers, at least the top 2, would be Diggs and Demario Douglas. I guess I'd put Kayshon Boutte as the 3rd starter, but I don't know. Like there's a world, it might not be a likely world, but like there's a world potentially where your top 3 wide receivers next year could be like Stefon Diggs, Kyle Williams, and Efton Chisholm. I don't know. Is it a 1% chance? Is it a 0.5% chance? Is it 25% chance? I have no idea what it is, but like Efton Chisholm currently looks to be in the mix, and he's getting targeted more than other receivers, and he's catching more passes than other receivers.
I think that not being there myself, it is much easier for me to pump all the brakes.
No, I can understand it.
Very easy to just cast some doubt, but I understand the good. I would say the positive is they have an undrafted kid who looks like a player.
Right.
To what extent we will find out over the summer, I guess. That is, but I think a day like today makes all of that open up. Whereas before it was sort of, you would have been a weirdo to have this conversation a week ago, but now you're not a weirdo.
Yeah. So I didn't write about practice today. Andrew Callahan did. He put Efton Chisholm III as his player of the day and wrote, Chisholm caught 7 passes in team periods, most among all pass catchers, and took several snaps with Maye. He worked both in the slot and outside, winning on short routes and occasional deep crosses. With Bourne out and Diggs and Polk both limited, Chisholm maximized his opportunity and appears to be gaining momentum heading into minicamp. Do you think that, Josh McDaniels is in the building from January until late April? Do you think he's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like home right now. This feels like, I don't know, it's a new head coach, new assistants around me. Then when they sign Efton Chisholm, do you think he's like, you know what? It feels like home. It feels like Foxborough again. We're back.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time a Josh McDaniels run offense in New England didn't have a white guy? at receiver?
That's a good question because I think Gunnar Olszewski was there for like the tail end, right?
2020, he was there, right?
Was he there in 2021?
He was definitely there in 2019 because I remember the Patriots played a national TV game on a Thursday night, and he was like the number one receiver, and Brady was just like, "I'm leaving, I'm leaving, I'm leaving." So definitely 2019, definitely 2020, and then 2021. That sounds about right.
He was still there in 2021. He caught
and then
2 passes for 31 yards that
who
season.
could forget? And then Josh was gone. So it's been Edelman goes back to 09. Welker was there. They overlapped. I mean, you're going back to 2006. No, but they had Tim Dwight.
Was he there in 2006?
He was there in 05. I'm gonna say maybe.
I don't think he was because like that was their historically bad wide receiver group.
Oh, but no, that was no. I was gonna say Austin Collie. So yeah, 05.
So in 2006 they had Rashae Caldwell, Ben Watson, Troy Brown, Kevin Falk, Doug Gabriel, Daniel Graham, Lawrence Maroney, David Thomas, Chad Jackson, Corey Dillon, Jabbar Gaffney, Heath Evans, Patrick Pass. Ooh, Kelvin Kite snuck one in there for 4 games.
That doesn't count. That does not count.
He caught 1 pass for 9 yards.
Yeah, no, that doesn't count. So yeah, so 06 is maybe 06.
Oh, Kelvin Kite also not white, so my apologies.
Wow, Doug. Assuming that Kelvin Kite. So 05 was Tim Dwight. So then 04, I'm thinking that was another year.
Yeah, so 06. Yeah.
So really, the first run. It's been a long time to answer our own question.
Right. Yes, it has been. And I don't know. I mean, like, it's OTAs, and that's one thing I will throw out there that we're like kind of throwing some water on this one. Is that a lot of time, smaller, undersized receivers look much better before the pads come on. And there's no pads on right now. So this is one where like even if Efton Chisholm catches another 21 passes over 3 days of minicamp, still probably should pump the brakes a little bit until we actually see the pads come on in late July, early August to see if he can still be as good given the physical nature of a training camp practice with shoulder pads on. But for now, he's the star. Like he was a cheat code out there. Like the guys were just like, it was the easiest thing in the world for these quarterbacks to be hitting Efton Chisholm. It was a free reception for them, I would say.
Interesting.
And it's going to be fun to watch him in one-on-ones, assuming they do one-on-ones in training camp this year, because that's where Demario Douglas really put on a show. We'll see if Efton Chisholm can do the same thing.
Here's my question for you, Mr. Football Man, Mr. Pro Football Writers of America, Mr. Newspaper Man, Mr. Expert, right?
Yep.
I should know this, but nothing's like it might look like there's a brain in my head, but there's just a mouse spinning a wheel. In terms of undrafted receivers around the NFL, are there many that we could come up with that have had an impact? Because like for the past 3 years, Puka Nacua has been the late round receiver pick that you could get in the 4th or later. Is there an undrafted receiver that I'm blanking on? Tell me.
Well, I mean, how far back are we going? Because Jacoby Myers would qualify, right?
That's a good one. I should probably have thought of that one. So yeah, I would say the last 10 years, and he would certainly be high on that list.
Yeah, so Jacoby Myers is the one that would come up with first. I'm sure there's got to be someone else, but no one I'm really, because like even like we've talked about him before, Cooper Kupp was like a 3rd round pick. Puka Nacua was a 5th round pick. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 4th or 5th round pick. But yes, since like Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, there haven't been a ton of the undrafted guys who have really.
Yeah. Oh, Adam Thielen was undrafted.
Okay, that was probably more than 10 years ago, but yeah, that's another decent
Cole Beasley.
one.
Cole Beasley, he had a good little run there.
Yep. It's interesting.
So it happens.
These guys all have something in common.
Robbie Anderson?
Other than Jacoby Myers.
Robbie Anderson was undrafted, or Robbie Chosen? I don't know if he's gone back to Anderson.
So that's one.
Yeah, he's had a nice run.
Yeah. I mean, this year.
Okay. So, I mean, it happens. It happens, you know? It's not It's not ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
Not common.
It's not common. But I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. You would think that scouting has come far enough at this point where these guys shouldn't be. I guess Doug Baldwin was undrafted.
Okay.
That was once again more than 10 years ago. Miles Austin was undrafted. Lance Moore, David Patton. Yeah, Robbie Anderson's probably the most recent one other than Jacoby Myers who's like really made an impact.
Yeah. All right. Well, we worked through it. I think we provided information to the people in real time, which I think has value. I think it's easier to learn when you learn with us. Like if we're just being smarty pantses and telling you, it's not fun for anyone. But I feel like we're all part of it together. So you're welcome.
It's true. And like, yeah, absolutely. Like your point stands though, that it's hard for undrafted wide receivers to make a major impact because first of all, they don't really get the opportunities that drafted wide receivers do, but also they were undrafted for a reason, presumably. And for Efton Chisholm, he's undersized and slow. He might be quick, he might be agile, but he ran like a 4.740. So at some point, maybe that'll catch up to him. With those slot receivers, sometimes it doesn't because you don't have to get open downfield. You have to get open in a phone booth. I would also say that he has to prove himself as a blocker before he's actually out there in week 1 or whatever it is. But like most of the time during these OTAs and minicamp and training camp and all those things, like an undrafted free agent stands out because he's receiving opportunities that other undrafted free agents are not receiving. And like that's also a good gauge that, hey, maybe the coaching staff thinks pretty highly of this guy because they're putting him out there in a situation that most undrafted free agents aren't in. And it looks like to this point, maybe it's just because they lack depth in the slot, whatever it is, that the Patriots are putting him out there more often than other backup wide receivers for a reason.
Yeah. And we'll see how that plays out. Interestingly, Doug, because you know how I work, I couldn't not look up Adam Thielen's college stats with the Minnesota State Mavericks. They weren't really that good.
Really?
In 4 years, he had 2,800 yards and 20 touchdowns. His senior year, he had 1,100, well, just under 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns for the Minnesota State Mavericks. Like he was a good player for the Minnesota State Mavericks, but not the numbers you would expect to see from someone that has a legit NFL career for what? Still going. So what's that? 10, 11 years? 11 years. And he was really good. Was it last year or the year before? It was 2 years ago. For a terrible Panthers team. He was like dying out there every week. And it was like, this guy should probably tone it down.
See, he's a guy that, I mean, I guess, yeah, the main thing against him is that like he didn't produce crazy numbers at that level.
Because he had the body type.
Like he's 6'1", 192, ran a 4.45 with a 6.773 cone. So like those are ideal numbers for a wide receiver.
And I do, Doug, I have my limits on where this brain takes me. And I will not look up his quarterbacks at the Minnesota State football team, but I'm guessing they were not professionally talented.
That was actually going to be my next step to see like how bad this quarterback must have been. Because like that's what you would have to assume, right? That his quarterback probably stunk a little bit.
I'm thinking that's the thing. I'll look it up, Doug. I'll look it up. You made
Is Minnesota State FCS or Division II? Do you know that?
It sounds Division II to me. They don't seem like that, because like I'll watch that FCS championship and like the playoffs that they've had over the years.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I've ever.
So he had a couple quarterbacks. He had John Wolf and he had Mitch Brozovic. Neither one seems very good. No offense to those guys. I'm sure they're great guys.
So Nico Stoke didn't get in that year?
No, but Trent Cummings did.
Okay. And Nick Piracini didn't get in that year?
He did not get in that year, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I got John Wolf. I got John Wolf's stat. This is important. We got John Wolf's stats. You got to scroll so far on these websites. 17 touchdowns and 2 picks. Oh, that was the year after. Sorry. 13 touchdowns and 5 picks in Adam Thielen's senior year. And 8 of those touchdowns, 8 of the 13 were to Thielen. So
a guy named John Daniels the year before. These are not household names, I would say.
Yeah. This is really where, like, I could write the worst story ever on comparing Efton Chisholm to to Adam Thielen right now. Like I could do this. Like
yeah,
like Jacoby Myers makes more sense because he went to college as a quarterback,
right,
and was like, hey, I would like to play football, and so he switched to receiver, and you could see why NFL teams are like that will never work, and then it did. So
well, the other thing with Jacoby Myers, and like Jacoby Myers, obviously he can't take offense to this because he's been an NFL wide receiver for much longer than I have, more than most players have. Like he wasn't, let's call it like the prototypical ideal athlete as a wide receiver. He ran like a 4.6 40. He had good size at like 6'1", 190, but like the 3-cone wasn't great, the 40 wasn't great, vert wasn't great, broad jump. So like you look at that guy and you're like, yeah, he produced in college, but I don't know if he stacks up athletically to NFL wide receivers. But he's used his savvy, he's used his smarts, he's used his hands, all those things to go on to have a very good NFL career so far. So there's always a reason. Like it's usually off the field, it's sometimes athleticism, sometimes it's level of competition, but these guys go undrafted for a reason. That's why it makes it harder for them to play once they get in. So we'll see with Efton Chisholm. But so far, you don't usually exit week 2, week 3 of OTAs and say like the undrafted wide receiver was your player of the day, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, but when you put it like that, Doug, I'm just like, well, yeah, they're the Patriots. That is their receiving. That is the status of their receiving core. So
I mean, that is the other thing when I'm saying that there's like a non-zero chance that Efton Chisholm could be a week 1 starter. Obviously, the thing you immediately go to is like, well, yeah, look at the rest of the guys in the room.
Yeah. Pop quiz. How many receivers were drafted in 2019 when Jacoby Myers wasn't? This is a little fun trivia.
I'm going to say 27.
More.
As Michael counts. Really? Wow.
28, I think.
Wow, I was close. Holy shit.
Very close. So we have to double check. Actually, no. Yeah, it might be 28, but that was, of course, the N'Keal Harry year, Debo,
I
Brown.
believe Jacoby Myers' teammate at NC State, Kelvin Harmon, was drafted that year. Am I correct in saying that?
There were a lot of receivers taken.
Kelvin Harmon was a 6th-round pick by Washington, and he was still kicking around with the Cowboys last year. Good for him.
All right.
Good for
Hunter Renfrow was like the best late-round pick in there in the 5th round. But then there was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in the 6th round, and 1, 2, 3, 4 guys in the 7th round, none of whom were Jacoby Myers. So it's just a reminder in the context of the Efton Chisholm conversation not being insane, that when you get to the 6th and 7th rounds and the undrafted guys, maybe there are some that for reasons X, Y, or Z don't fit the criteria to get picked, but are perhaps better or just as good as some of those guys that go in the late rounds.
I'll also say, adding to our conversation of recent undrafted wide receivers, Olamide Zacchaeus was undrafted that year. He's gone on to do some stuff. Your boy Greg Dortch was undrafted that year too.
Dortch was undrafted, and Dortch
big
superstar
year for undrafted wide receivers. Lil Jordan Humphrey also undrafted. Deontay Hardy undrafted, and one other one. Where is he? Kevontae Turpin, also undrafted that year. So, like, there was like 5 undrafted wide receivers who've actually gone on to do some stuff.
After a year where 28 guys got picked at the position.
Right.
Greg Dortch is making $3.3 million this year, suckers.
Shows you how good these guys are at picking wide receivers.
Yes.
But any of those guys really would have been a better pick than N'Keal Harry also.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to talk about N'Keal Harry, so I'd like to, but I'll pass. You know, it's just not what people need to hear.
Kyle Williams, him and Efton Chisholm have been staying after practice to catch balls on the jugs machine, so that's been good to see them putting in that extra work. Seems like Kyle Williams also getting a lot of opportunities out there. So I don't know. Overall, it was like a more. It was a funner day of practice, just because like you don't want to see the offense struggling week in and week out. You know,
ball on the ground, just sloppy, and we've seen that in recent years. And I would agree with you. Yeah. It's not the most fun thing in the world to just see like an offense that looks like a high school operation playing against a professional defense.
Right, and the defense does still look professional out there. I mean, I mentioned it, like Christian Gonzalez got his hand on the ball. Jalen Hawkins had an interception. I'm still curious to see, like I've said, what this all looks like when they actually take the field. But like, it was one thing that Josh McDaniels and Doug Marrone said before practice, because we had assistants today. They were both like, when talking about Will Campbell, he's facing a good front. He's facing a good defense every week, which should help him. Or every practice, which should help him. And I think it's just like way too early during OTAs to say how Will Campbell actually looks. That's one that we will have to wait till training camp for.
Yeah. Arm length. Just want to get that in there. Arm length.
Doug Marrone was asked today, how do you feel about arm length? Which, I mean, Doug Marrone's probably talked twice since he joined the Patriots, and he's probably been asked about arm length like twice as many times as that. So he did his best to answer it, but I think I left shortly after that because I had other assistants to talk to.
My daughter tonight, out of nowhere, asked me to measure her arm from her shoulder to the tip of her finger. It's 21 inches. So,
wow.
I don't know if she's ready for the big time.
I mean,
you think that's big? 8?
Yeah. I think she might be an NFL offensive tackle.
All right, we'll get her down there. They need. Yeah. We'll get into. They lost David Andrews for good. So
David Andrews did retire today. We always forget about that when we're coming up with these outlines, but he had his retirement press conference today. Emotional. He's a great guy. So that's one that even though today's schedule for myself was really cramped, I wanted to make sure that I went and saw David Andrews' retirement press conference. And yeah, I mean, the Patriots will miss him. And it seemed like, based on what I heard there, he had opportunities to play. Like, teams were still calling him, but felt like he was only wanted to play for the Patriots. Shoulder still doesn't seem 100%, not healthy. So decided to retire rather than keep playing for a different organization. And it feels like the Patriots probably would have kept him if he had been fully healthy and able to play this year.
Yeah. I mean, he looked like a different man. He looks as though he's lost 100 pounds. Like, his face looks different. So, like, a lot of linemen, when they stop consuming 4,000 calories a day for their profession, immediately change. So that part, I don't know when.
He did look very slimmed down, I would say. Yeah.
Even since your event at Vitamin C, which was over a month ago, a month and a half, he looked slimmer then, but not like today. Today he looked like a different person. So I'm guessing that probably didn't start in earnest. Maybe it started when he's not lifting and working out the way like normal. So that's probably
but we saw him a bunch last year during the season, and he kept the weight on throughout all of last season, despite the fact that he wasn't playing, despite the fact that he had the shoulder injury. So I do think that obviously has to be a conscious decision for an offensive lineman to be like, you know what, I'm going to stop eating like my job depends on it and just start being a normal human being.
Right. And so that is where, I watched his retirement press conference today. Didn't seem like a guy eager to step away from football. Like, it pained him to be up there. There was sort of a begrudgingness to it. Yeah. And I guess the factor must have been, do I want to go sign with Arizona or Seattle or Las Vegas and then get there and grind through and be in constant pain and then maybe get cut or maybe get put on IR. And then you're sort of beholden to that team that you're not even playing for. And maybe I could see that path being not desirable, but there was no point today where you're like, oh, he's really at peace with this, he's still struggling with it.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. And he was very emotional, and it was cool to see all of the guys talking about him during the press conference, because they had a bunch of video clips come in from Daron Harmon and James White and Devin McCourty. And I want to just say, obviously the Patriots had some fantastic teams from the years that I've been covering them since the playoffs in 2012. And I just want to say, in a serious note, the Patriots have also had some unbelievable human beings. Watching that, and David Andrews, fantastic human being, did not need to come to the charity event that you had mentioned before. Devin and Jason McCourty have been unbelievably generous with fundraisers that I've put on. Daron Harmon was among the first people to reach out to me after Hallie got sick, after Hallie died. So these are guys that don't need to be nice to the media, especially after they leave, after they retire.
I would throw James White in there too. James White,
great guy. The best of all, Matthew Slater. another guy who's been unbelievably supportive of my family. And I'm just like, I don't know how many other beat writers get to say that about like so many guys that they've covered over the years. And that's just guys who I'm like, who have specifically done things related to me or my family, but like there's a million others who were fantastic human beings that I've covered. But I just feel really fortunate to have been able to cover those guys and get to know them and maintain a relationship with them past their retirement. So yeah, just wanted to throw in a serious note about that.
Because like some guys cover a dynasty, like what's his name, and like it's the Cowboys in the '90s, and it's like just pure chaos and just '90s decadence. And other people like you get to experience some good humans along the way. So good to know.
Yeah, and I mean, like credit goes out to Bill Belichick for finding those human beings, drafting or signing those human beings, and then finding them to be very good football players as well. So, and that's obviously the most important thing for a football team, but like he really did do a really good job of finding great guys to play for the team and guys that other players wanted to work hard for.
Yeah. And another, obviously we've talked about it, undrafted guy in David Andrews, which is still crazy.
Yeah. I think Robert Kraft might have been the one to say that David Andrews was the only Patriots offensive lineman who's gone from, my internet might be cutting in and out, but undrafted free agent to go from UDFA to rookie starter in week 1. So that was pretty huge for him.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like the only why am I blanking? Who was the wrestler? Stephen Neal was drafted, right? Like I'm just trying to think.
He was not drafted, but I think it took
It wasn't a week 1 starter.
It might have taken him like 3 years to start. That's off the top of my head.
He's in Pro Football Reference as Steve Neal.
Steve.
So, yeah, in 2002, he only played 2 games, didn't play in 2003. I'm assuming he was hurt, and then was a starter in 2004. So he did start a game in 2002.
Yeah, was that? But he was signed in 2001.
Oh, yeah, there you go. He started week 6.
So started one game in 2002.
That was the blue pants, blue jersey game against Green Bay when they lost and never did that again.
Wow, that was a bad look. But yeah, like didn't become a regular starter until he was 28 in 2004.
Yeah. So that was
a career trajectory for Mr. Steve.
Wrestler. Doesn't play much for a few years and then starts a Super Bowl season, starts 2 more full seasons, and then hangs around for 4 more years as a starter when healthy. Pretty good.
A guy I did not get to know. I missed the Stephen Neal era, but I'm looking at a picture of him wearing a blue jersey and blue pants. It was before its time, I would say, that look, where that would have thrived, let's say like 10 years later in the NFL, but people weren't ready for it. Just like they weren't the gray jerseys or the silver jerseys. What did you think of those at the time?
Those suck. They looked like such trash, and people buy them and they look like when someone shows up wearing the gray thing to like the bar or whatever, you're like, it looks like a wet sweatsuit.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like they washed a bunch of like black clothing with their white jersey, and that's how it came out of the wash.
They were so popular too, and like I feel like Brewski's snowball picture, the iconic one, I think he's wearing gray in that one, isn't he? The silver.
Oh yeah, might be. Yeah,
they were just nasty. By the way, I want to throw another undrafted lineman into the mix, Ryan Wendell, who you did cover briefly.
I did.
But he didn't start any games as a rookie, and started 2 games his second year, 3 games his third year, and then became a full-time starter. So he's right. Mr. Kraft, Robert Kraft, correct. The trajectory of undrafted to week 1 starter is quite unique. So
Dan Connolly was another undrafted guy, but he began his career with the Jaguars before coming to the Patriots, but he was another undrafted starting mainstay on the Patriots offensive line. They had a lot of them. Once again, give Bill Belichick credit. That guy found some talent through the years.
I would agree.
In unlikely places.
You know, the Belichick conversation these days is always a little bit different, but there's no denying that run and like the undrafted.
We're gonna start the bandwagon of actually Bill Belichick was pretty good.
Yeah. Counterpoint. Bill Belichick, winner of 6 Super Bowls, pretty good at a lot of things, including finding that talent. And that was, the undrafted run, which I felt got overrated a bit. Like fans really got into like, oh, we're gonna have an undrafted guy for the 20th straight year, and it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's if it comes at the expense,
if it's worthy, yes. If it's J.C. Jackson, if it's Malcolm Butler, if it's
even Gunnar Olszewski was maybe forced, but like I feel like in the past couple years, it's really been forced. Whatever it may be, there's
Right.
it's not an ideal to shoot. There was someone in 2020 I can't think of where they're like the streak lives, and I'm like,
yeah, there was like JJ Taylor. He was like cut, but then was on the week 1 roster or something like that. And you're just like, okay,
yeah, there
it
was
doesn't need to continue.
right, but
Because they also didn't have the longest streak. Some other team still has the longest streak.
sure, and who cares? It's just like if it comes at the expense of a good draft, you don't want it. But if you're supplementing a Super Bowl caliber team with guys like J.C. Jackson, which allows you to let Malcolm Butler go for $1 billion, like the effect that it has on a good roster is significant.
No, you are 100% correct. I'm trying to think of other things that really stood out at practice today. We had a. It still seems like they're kind of mixing and matching guys on the offensive line without giving anything away. I'm going to say that Cole Strange had a bigger role on the offensive line today.
Oh, wow. Interesting. For anyone that's just catching up, Doug is not allowed to say what position the offensive linemen play, which is totally a cool, normal thing to abide by. So good job by you.
Yeah. We had a decent amount of guys like absent and limited today. Didn't see Carlton Davis, Matt Collins, Marcus Jones, Anthony Jennings, Travion Williams, Tyrese Robinson, or Kendrick Bourne. But the practices are mandatory next week. So we'll see how many of those are like injuries. Oh, Jelani Tavile suffered an injury today, which I don't mean to minimize. He was down for a little bit. Guys were on knees around him. Like pretty rare to see an injury during OTAs or minicamp that like requires a guy to be down for that long. He was helped off the field by Jabril Peppers. So certainly hoping for the best for Jelani Tavai, but he's also a guy that you kind of wonder what that all looks like with him in the defense. One other note from practice, Marte Mapu is looking bigger this year. So he's always been kind of a hybrid safety / linebacker.
And I want to say this, Doug, about you.
Yeah.
You're a big height weight guy. Like you are more in tune with guys' weight on the team than I think anyone I know. Maybe you know people more in tune with it, but you're like, he's listed at 228, but he came in at 237. He's looking more like 245. And I'm always like, okay, so the floor is yours on Marte Mapu. Hit me.
No, so here's what I would say about it. And obviously we're at minute 42. So clearly this wasn't like a first minute of the podcast type of thing. But I think if you want to keep Marte Mapu on the team, if you're passionate about Marte Mapu, probably an easier path right now to make the Patriots as a linebacker than it is as a safety. Because as far as like inside linebackers go on the Patriots roster, you're looking at Christian Ellis, Jack Gibbons, Monty Rice, Cam Riley, Robert Spillane, Jelani Tavai. So if you throw Marte Mapu into the mix, like he's right in there. He would be right in the mix.
Yeah.
Maybe you value Jack Gibbons higher because he played under Mike Vrabel before, but like Mapu would be at least at safety. You are looking at him being behind Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, and Marcus Epps, and like potentially behind Craig Woodson. Like Brendan Schooler is going to make the team. You've got Del Pettis in the mix, who was playing over him last year. You got Jalen Hawkins, who was playing over him last year. Like, it feels like there's an uphill battle for Marte Mapu to make this team as a safety. And maybe it's still an uphill battle for him to make it as a linebacker, but maybe less steep, I would say.
Yeah, and you tell me, because I can't look at the stats. I can't look at the year-to-year changes. But I looked it up his draft profile, 6'3", 217, and now he's listed as 6'3", 230. Has he been heading that way over the past couple of years?
I think he's been listed at 230. I'd be surprised if they've actually like changed the Patriots.
Well, no,
heights and weights.
Even Pro Football Reference is 230. So like somewhere between his draft profile and the Patriots roster, he went 13 pounds
He's
up,
gained weight. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like, I mean, when I saw him today, he didn't have a jersey on. I was like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, that looks like a tight end or a linebacker. I didn't look at him and say like, that looks like a safety.
Yeah.
Let's say like 5 pounds or something. Like if you're already a 230-pound safety, that kind of puts you into the linebacker conversation. And Patriots are looking for faster, more athletic linebackers right now.
Yeah.
And they kind of already have a lot of oversized safeties, especially when you're just talking about like Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar. So I don't know. It's honestly, if I were to make a 53-man roster projection right now, I might not include him, but it at least increases the chances that he could be on the roster.
It's funny reading. I assume this is Lance Zierlein. Yeah, Lance Zierlein's draft profile of him from a couple of years ago. It won't be a surprise if Mapu adds weight and locks in as a backup weak side linebacker in a 4-3 defense as a pro. And it's kind of like, yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
Took a few years, but I mean, he's another guy, like, not to get too far down the Marte Mapu rabbit hole, but like, he's in year 3 now. And what is he? Is he like 27?
He is 20. He's only 25. He turns 26. Okay. He turns 26 in November. So, definitely was.
Yeah, okay, then I'm way off on that one. But yeah,
he's not quite as old as Duggar was as a rookie, who I think was 23.
Yeah,
as a rookie,
he was 23 or 24 as a rookie. So yeah, he's. But no, I mean,
Duggar's 29. Every time I look at his age, it's like, no.
I know. Yeah, and there's some tread on those tires at this point. So
he was 24 as a rookie.
Yep, that's pretty wild. I don't know. I don't think there was anything else super, super notable to come out of OTAs today, but we got 46 minutes out of it, so that's not bad.
Well, we got a good question. If you want to put Michael Rab's question on the screen.
Oh, sure.
It's an interesting one that off the top of my head I'd like to think about.
Yeah.
No one mentions Belichick's incredible talent evaluation at camp. Is there one guy that he cut that became a star, yet so many low undrafted players, big contributors? So it's an interest, and I do think there's a luxury of sorts in being a very good team where you can maybe take a couple flyers on guys that a team that's 6-10 and needs to make the playoffs next year might not be able to make. But facts are facts.
There's not one that immediately comes to my mind.
What's his name?
For a while, it was honestly hard to find a guy that the Patriots drafted and cut who even like went on to have a career, like Lee Smith.
Braxton Berrios, does that count?
Became a star? No, I would not call it beyond like off field excluded. I would say that he's not a star. And like
he's had a career,
right? Lee Smith had a career after being cut as a rookie by the Patriots. But he also was a blocking tight end who had 523 yards in 11 seasons.
There's someone we're missing. There's someone I know we're missing.
Cut. Yeah. They're not off the top of my head, though. Like,
I got a loud keyboard, huh?
There was like a defensive tackle for a while that they drafted and cut who went on to do something. There was like a guard for the Buccaneers that they cut who went on to kind of start a few years, but no, like as far as drafted guys go, I would definitely say no.
Yeah. People were pretty up in arms when I would say one of the more annoying eras of Mike. No one cares about me, but I'll say it anyway. Covering the Patriots and like the feedback you get in comments and all that. Jonas Gray, 2014. So many people would comment and be like, the arrogance of Bill to not play Jonas Gray because of his rules is unforgivable. And I just was screaming, just like, what if Jonas Gray is not really good?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he was not. So I'm going to put that as another feather in Bill's cap for not only getting
in your cap.
Getting that
your cap.
He got that Colts game out of a guy like that and also knew to not get drunk off it and think it was going to last.
Right. No, 100%. So
we're getting a comment of Gruger Hill. You see that one?
Kamu Gruger Hill. It's not, I mean, if that's the closest that you're going to get, then it's not too bad. But like the guys I was referencing before, Jeremy Mincey was cut as a rookie. He went on to have an 8-year career, but it's Jeremy Mincey. He had 26 career sacks. Ted Larson was the other guy I was referencing. He was also cut as a rookie and went on to have 88 starts in the NFL.
Was Jeremy Larson the Northwestern? Was he a Northwestern pick?
No. Ted Larson?
No, sorry. Jeremy
Mincey.
The receiver you just mentioned.
No, Jeremy Mincey was a defensive end out of Florida, and Ted Larson was a center out of North Carolina State. The Northwestern wide receiver was
Jeremy Ebert. Sorry.
Jeremy Ebert.
Did not have a career.
Yes, he did not have a career.
It's a fun conversation. It's fun. It's a fun twist on it that I guess I hadn't thought of in that way. So good question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the fact that there's not one guy off the top of our heads that we're immediately coming up with, I think once again says pretty good things about Bill Belichick's talent evaluation. And the guy had a lot of misses. Like, I'm going through the draft history right now. It was definitely not all pretty, but when he knew to cut bait with someone, he did it. And yeah, there's guys like Shaq Mason's gone on. Like, you shouldn't have traded him.
Yeah.
And there's players like that out there.
You also won Super Bowls with Shaq Mason, so it's not
right.
like
no,
not like he didn't know
cut
what
him
he
too
had
early. Right.
Yeah, I mean that was not a good deal. Like Mankins for Tim Wright, probably didn't have to make that trade. You probably could have kept Logan Mankins, but whatever.
But I don't remember the exact salary cap implications at the time, but so they do that trade in 2014, and then they win a Super Bowl that year, but then also go on to win 2 more Super Bowls in 2016 and 2018.
So you're saying
they were able to acquire players that helped them win those Super Bowls by cutting bait on Logan Mankins in a trade 1 year too early, then it still kind of worked out.
Yeah, know? And they did have tons of turnover. I remember going to Super Bowl 51 and I was thumbing through the big printout on the plane down there, and it had how they were made. They do it every year, how the Patriots were made. And you looked, and the number of players on the 2016 roster in the playoffs, it was about 28, I think, had been on the 2014 roster. So they had turned over about half the roster of the active playing roster in 2 years. So I think that's a good counterpoint to you when, I think that trade wasn't great. Tim Wright didn't help you win the Super Bowl. Logan Mankins probably could have. However, that's a different way to look at it. So fair point by you.
Thanks. I've got a few in me. Yeah, I'm still looking through these draft classes. I wouldn't say that Jarrett Stidham has become a star since that was a trade, right? They traded him?
Maybe, but it was probably a low-level pick swap or something.
God, there were some rough drafts here that we said a bunch of nice things about.
Yeah, but there was also, there was a year they drafted 4 guys, which is one of the funnier things ever. But this always gets lost in the discussion. This is the Belichick was kind of a good GM thing. Shocking take by me again. Print the headlines. Belichick wasn't bad at his job. If you are similar to what I just said about the luxury of being able to keep a lower profile flyer type guy, is when you're the best team in the league and you're drafting, you kind of need 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah.
You don't need 7. This year they needed 7 guys. Last year they needed 7 guys because they weren't a very good team. But when you are literally the class of the NFL, it's not to say they did well drafting, but it's to say it wasn't nearly as critical as it is for other teams. And maybe that caught up to him at the end.
Right. But
for a long time, it was oh God, the 2013 draft class sucked. It's they won 3 Super Bowls after that. Whichever draft class you want to pick.
2013 was actually pretty good, but yeah.
You know what I mean. Yeah. Traded by the Patriots with a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick. So Stidham in a 7th. Stidham in a 7th got you a 6th.
You know what? I mean, since we're rehashing things right now,
let's do it. Tom Brady was actually good too, if you want to print that one.
Listen, Jarrett Stidham has not gone on to become a star. He's been a high-level backup now for 3 years or whatever it is. Do you still kind of wish you would have gotten to see a start out of him in 2020?
No.
No? Mm-mm. You were fine watching Cam Newton all year?
I would say because there was the Monday night, the moved to Monday night Kansas City game when Cam had COVID and you got Hoyer instead. And Hoyer was not good and also beefed the timeout at the end of the half and cost them a field goal. And then Stidham came in at halftime. I guess I would have preferred Stidham over Hoyer at that point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see that Cam still had the juice or whatever with his teammates that I don't know that Stidham goes in there and gets much out of them.
That's fair.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Just interesting. Newton hasn't stuck in the league. Stidham has, obviously, but Newton was probably at a higher level than Stidham was at that time.
I still can't believe the Cam Newton return story, the whole I'm back, and then just
with the Panthers in 2021.
Yeah, like it was. He looked really good that first game, and you're like, he is back. Cam Newton is back, and then he wasn't. Not only that year, but then just that was it. Right. 0-5 that year, with 4 touchdowns, 5 picks, a 54.8% completion rate. Wow, crazy.
Yeah. Did you see the Pablo Torre Bill Simmons beef today?
Yep, I was eating my breakfast. I had a rainbow acai bowl at Press Cafe. Sponsor opportunity? Anyone out there?
No, I Press Cafe provided food for one of our fundraisers.
The
last 2 months.
Would say 27 to 30% of my salary over the last 7 years has gone directly to Press Cafe.
Wow.
So yes,
they had a good it was like a Mediterranean wrap that I had there.
They do this Mediterranean kale salad. It's just like, I think I've told you about this before. It's the 4 scoops of tuna and then this big clump of a spicy feta. Like, I don't even, it's not healthy, but it's really good. Anyways,
that is not bad for you.
It's not great when you eat like a big clump of it.
That's fair.
Yeah. It's pretty fattening, I would assume. Anyways, I saw the tweet, and I was this guy at the place with the phone up to my ear so as not to disturb anyone else's. But yeah, he was pretty hot at Pablo Torre.
He was, and then Pablo Torre came back to be like, "Oh, well, I have some questions for you, Mr. Bill Simmons."
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see that? You didn't see that part?
No.
Pablo Torre was basically like threatening Bill Simmons that he's going to do a podcast about him next.
Someone I've learned. Okay. I don't know that much about Pablo Torre. Like, I've seen him on, I guess, ESPN in various roles, and now these podcasts I've listened to. I've actually listened to a couple podcasts since then. It's a good podcast, very well produced, very good. But I've learned very quickly that I would not want to make an enemy out of him, because he would be in every house I've ever lived in. He'd be knocking on doors. He'd be talking to like my 7th grade math teacher.
Yeah.
In an instant, he'd be flying around. So that's a beef I would not particularly choose to pick.
So he tweeted, "Dear at Bill Simmons,
oh,
since you have such a strong public opinion about my work, ... I happen to have a few questions for you, specifically, period. Unless you're afraid of Pablo finds out and someone just pretending to be a journalist, of course. Thanks, Pablo."
I have a sneaking suspicion. This feels pro wrestling to me.
Ooh.
Because Bill Simmons' outburst seems so random.
It was. Like, I haven't listened to Bill Simmons regularly in a few years, just because, like, I've been, like, staying away from sports podcasts and more towards, like, comedy and other things. But it felt out of character. Like, what he said did feel a little out of character.
It felt like pro wrestling when you get that. And now they'll do a joint podcast episode and get massive numbers, I'm sure.
Certainly possible.
Mutually beneficial, but
on
dangerous.
The surface, this looks like Pablo Torre is threatening to, like, expose something about Bill Simmons, right?
Yeah, it's a dangerous game that I would not particularly play. And I've said on this podcast, there was no reason for Pablo Torre to go to the Airbnb in Winthrop or wherever it was and interview the owners. That was over the top and not really, it didn't really build on the story at all.
Right.
I don't think, but
yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not going to start a beef with him. He's free to do whatever he wants on his pod. It's his podcast. What if he was like, you know what? It's stupid that Doug Kyed and Mike Hurley talk about bands that have 4-chord songs that are 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. Those guys suck. We would be like, yeah, I guess that's true.
Pretty good point. Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you're done with that topic, I think as a Pats chat, we need to get out ahead of an embarrassing moment. A band we've talked about a lot is going to have an embarrassing moment this summer. In that Newfound Glory is opening for The Offspring at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield. And I would say roughly it looks like 22% of the tickets have been sold.
That might be high. Yeah.
We don't know how many lawn seats have been sold.
We don't know how many lawn. We don't know how many general admission. But
you look at the seats, which there's 1 section, 2 sections, I believe 3 sections of seats, like tiers.
Yeah.
Lot of empty seats. It's going to be awkward for The Offspring, Jimmy Eat World, and Newfound Glory to actually take the stage under such circumstances.
I think they might need to just like close the lawn.
Yeah. And the third section.
And just move everyone up into the pit in first 2 sections.
And I've had an adapting take on this because I actually looked recently.
Yeah.
Do you know what it costs? I brought my daughter last year to Imagine Dragons, and I was in the second tier of seats. They were good seats on the aisle. I don't know what I paid, but it was probably like $100. Do you know what The Offspring is charging to sit in the front, like 20 rows of that second section?
Of the second section, isn't it still like over $100?
It's $160.
Yeah, it's too much.
To sit down low in the back of the first section is $182. To sit in the front of that section is $300. So my evolved take has been, how dare they?
Yeah.
Who does The Offspring think they are? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Like, it is legitimate. Like, and I think I've made this point legitimately on this podcast before. We've probably talked about this too much, but like, people grew up going to Newfound Glory, Offspring, and Jimmy Eat World shows
for $25,
paying like $20 for tickets. And then, like, yes, as a band, if you sell out too many of those, then eventually you do have to play Great Woods or Xfinity Center or whatever it is. But like, if you're like, oh, I'll get a ticket to the Newfound Glory show, and then like they're asking you to pay $160 for like a semi-decent seat, you're like,
for an opening set,
there's just no way. And like the same thing goes for the Offspring. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I would assume they've probably played more shows similar to this where like they're charging this much money, but like, it's a lot of money, and it's tough because eventually you probably have to lower prices, and then you feel bad for the people who did pay that much.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. No one's paying $300 to see the Offspring in the year 2025. Like, general admission, like the pit tickets are $182.
Right. In that pit,
that's so much.
That's a lot. But I mean, it's the pit. Like, if it was like a Fenway show, you'd pay that much. But and the other funny thing is, like, I loved the Offspring when I was 15. Like, loved like the whole catalog to that point. Like, they had 4 or 5, maybe 6 albums. I still know every word to those albums. And then we were talking, and you were like, I don't think I know any Offspring song since like a certain date. I was like, I know this one, which is a new song. It came out in 2008.
Yes.
So, not saying like I kept up with them.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can be as into a band as I was, and then I think I know a new song and it's 17 years old.
Right.
It's just it's a fascinating thing. And we want to get out ahead of that. We had nothing to do. They could be a sponsor of the podcast, and we could help get people in for free. We could have a little Pat's Chat meetup in section 8 or whatever.
I was texting other friends, and my friend was like, if tickets drop down to like $8 on StubHub, he was like, I'd go for Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory, stick it around for like a couple of songs of the Offspring, and then bounce.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Like that was the limit he put on tickets. He was like $8, not $305.
I'd go as high as 25, but that's smart because.
But I also, like, you can currently get in for $30, but it's the lawn. Like, I don't really want to sit in the lawn and watch that, you know?
Right. They should ask you who you're seeing. Like, I'll go to the lawn for the Offspring. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm halfway out the door at that point.
Right.
But they don't let you do that. So
so speaking of concerts, we're past the hour-long mark, which is insane based on how much we had to talk about. But so the day before the day before that show.
It's Wednesday, July. It's a Wednesday also, July 30th.
So it's July 30th. The day before that show, Goo Goo Dolls and Dashboard Confessional are playing at the what's the place in Boston? The
MGM?
No, the outdoor one.
Oh, the tent. We call it the tent. Harbor Lights.
How much do you think the cheapest ticket for that show is?
Goo Goo Dolls and who? Sorry.
And Dashboard Confessional.
Oh, so like cheapest ticket or just average?
What's the cheapest ticket to get in to Goo Goo Dolls Dashboard Confessional?
$100.
I think it was $256.
Like, just to get in? No, that's not like a resale or a premium.
It's a resale. It is a sold out show at Leader Bank Pavilion. So like, this is to say that shows in general are not struggling, but shows that have overbooked absurdly huge venues are selling poorly.
The freaking Goo Goos, huh?
If they could somehow just switch venues, like the Goo Goo Dolls might be able to sell out at this point, Xfinity. Right. And even with the amount of ticket sales currently for the Offspring, I don't think that would sell out Leader Bank Pavilion. But so
don't quote me. I think the Pavilion is 5,000. I think Mansfield is 15,000, give or take. So it's triple the size.
Yeah. I like Goo Goo Dolls albums up to a certain point. I think the last one that's good is like A Boy Named Goo or something. A Boy Named
That was
Something.
1996, I believe that was. I had that
Yes.
CD.
Like
I might have got that CD
you're
from like BMG when you get the sticker, like,
right.
or no, when it's like
And
10 CDs for $1. That might have been one of them.
people who are only aware of Goo Goo Dolls post 1996 are like thinking them the biggest loser in the world. Listen to a song off that album that's not named. That album's good. It's
Yeah,
got like it's like
there,
it's like a relatively like fast
yeah.
album,
The softest song they ever wrote became a hit, and then they were
right?
like, "Oh,
And then
let's
they
do
just
that,"
turned into a soft rock like adult contemporary band.
like dentist music.
The issue is that like, well, first of all, I'm not going to that show because it's $256, and I really wouldn't play anything off of those albums. They only play
Yeah,
name and post 1996 material. But like, if they were to play that album or songs off that album, like Goo Goo Dolls and Dashboard's not a bad show. Not going for $240 though.
that one, $8 is my max on that. And just to put a bow on the Offspring Newfound Glory Jimmy Eat World show, selling 20% of the 15,000 capacity. So a few years ago, my friend and I, as a gag, bought Limp Bizkit tickets for the Songus Arena in Lowell, which might be 4,000 to 5,000 capacity.
Yeah.
It sold so poorly that they could not have the show. They moved it to the Worcester Palladium, which is what, 2,000 at most. And a year or two later, last year, Limp Bizkit took the worst tour of all time in rock and roll history to the Xfinity Center in Mansfield and basically sold it out.
Wow.
It was, there were seats here and there scattered about. That was a tour with Corey Feldman was touring, rapper Bones, synth punker Nate No Face, and Riff Raff. Wow. That tour Limp Bizkit in 2024 just about sold out the Xfinity Center, and our guys in Newfound Glory as openers are not pulling their weight, so it's not going to be a good one.
I'll say this right now. There's an open spot at the Palladium on July 30th. So if the Offspring, Newfound Glory, and Jimmy Eat World want to play the Palladium instead, I'll be there.
Or if they
could even do like outdoor at the Palladium. You know how they've been doing the outdoor shows at the Palladium?
Yeah.
That would be less uncomfortable, right?
Absolutely. I think that's the move. But if they do hold it in Mansfield and they want to host us and give us good seats, we will do a live podcast in the parking lot.
And we'll introduce the bands. We'll play the Pat's Chat theme song live.
I had to do that now last year in my brief foray into radio world. ZLX at a birthday bash at the tent. Right. And the headliner was, give me a second, 90s. It was Bush.
Oh.
And so Rich did all the talking on stage, but did ask if I wanted to say anything. And my plan was to pander to the crowd. So I just screamed Boston with my fist in the air as loud as I could. And I got a pop. I got a cheer.
Nice.
Keep it simple. Huge. Don't talk. Don't mess it up by speaking. So it was something I'm glad I did once, but I would say not my forte, getting on stage in front of 15 or 5,000 people and talking.
I'll say it. Bush has got some tracks.
Bush was good. Bush was good.
Head, Little Things. Did they play that one? That one's good.
They played them all. They were tight too. Like we had low expectations for Bush. Obviously, you're not like, I want to go see Bush. They were good. Jerry Cantrell opened, and then another a '90s band, maybe Collective Soul. It was very '90s. It was solid.
I was seeing if the Gin Blossoms were coming into town this summer, and it's at the Cape Cod Melody tent while I'm going to be away. So that's unfortunate. Don't get to see the Gin Blossoms. I've never seen the Gin Blossoms. I like that band a lot, though.
I loved New Miserable Experience. I had it on tape, which tells you how committed I was. But I've heard good things about their live show. Never seen them. Band that always tours, that you always see, is the Wallflowers. And it's like, what do you think they're feeling when they just do that little intro to One Headlight? Are they just like, here we go, let's just get through this one, boys?
Yeah. Headlight, Three Marlenas, and what was the third hit off that album that they've never had another hit off?
Sixth Avenue Heartache? Was that
album? I mean, those are three bangers, I gotta say. Like
they had a run. Brief, but solid.
Yeah. Jacob Dylan sold his soul for 3 songs, but what if 3 songs they were? Okay. After an hour and 10 minutes about talking about the Patriots and 90s alternative rock, I think we're going to end this podcast.
Well, no, one more, because you had asked last time. I saw Friendship.
Oh, what'd you think?
It was good. A lot of funny moments. I would say it was missing something. This is the Tim Robinson movie for anyone that isn't up on it. In Paul Rudd. I don't know. Like it felt like it was just missing something to me to be a feature-length film. Like it was funny. I enjoyed it. I'd probably watch it again for the one-liners. But
I laughed a lot. But part of it, something about it, like doesn't fully feel maybe like a movie.
Yeah, it should have either been shorter or had something else happen. Maybe at some point.
Fair. Yeah, but it's definitely very funny. Tim Robinson is very funny.
I didn't hit the mute button, Doug. Apologies to the listeners.
Just missed it. All right.
All right. Well, I just wanted to get that out. So big Tim Robinson supporter, but I would say I give the movie like a 7.5 out of 10.
That's fair. I think that's fair. My wife gave it, I think, a 10 out of 10. I think it would give it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But it was good.
I wanted to see it in a theater setting.
Yeah.
With other people, and I immediately regretted it because the guy next to me was just loudly laughing at all the wrong times. And it was like, you're fake. You're fake.
I saw it in a sold out Coolidge Corner theater. So I feel like I saw it with
a preview, right? Like everyone there was ready to have a good time.
Everyone there was ready to die laughing at all of the Tim Robinson things. So
did you notice too, like the opening scene, it's not the spoilers, the opening scene, like as soon as he comes into focus, you could just start hearing chuckles.
Yes.
Of just like the sight of him on a big screen being exactly what you'd expect him to be was hilarious.
Coolidge Corner Theater, through all these years, still a very pretentious place to see a movie. So
it's for cinema fans.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretentious until I step into like I'm being out pretentious by everyone else here. But it is what it is. Cool.
Interesting twist.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a big if I wanted to go like old school theater, I'm from Arlington, so the Capitol Theater, that's like, you ever been there?
Where's that?
In East Arlington.
No, I've never been to Arlington to see a movie all the time.
Makes sense. But it's my old school go-to.
I think I might be losing Wi-Fi, so we will talk to you guys again soon after, I don't know, maybe we'll do a podcast after every minicamp practice. Who knows?
I've got time. I've got time.
And then we're going to probably take a pretty long break unless we figure out something else to talk about. But we will talk to you guys again early next week after, let's call it the first practice minicamp. I think that's a good time to talk. Unless
Lock it in.
Happens.
Lock it in.
Goodbye, folks,
Bye.
fellas and females. I don't know how to say that.